Hi, everybody. Matthew with Parkway Business Solutions. And well, it didn't take the SBA too long to come out with, I guess we could call it version 3 of their disaster loan application process. Now, if you watched our first one, you'll know that right after that, almost about 2 days later, they immediately changed it over to a PDF version. And now we are bringing you the third version, a new web form as well. So if you're still going through the process to sign up for an SBA loan, you'll definitely want to tune into this video as we go through the new online web portal for the SBA disaster loans. Hi, everybody. Matthew with Parkway Business Solutions again. And well, surprise, surprise, surprise. The SBA has once again made a change to their online loan application process, specifically around the economic injury disaster loan application. So if you watched our first video, we basically went through the whole process, the different questions that were necessary. And then about 2 days after that, I think they were having issues with the site itself. They basically pulled that down and had to do a PDF-based form. Well, today, this is March 29th, they've now gone back to a web-based form, and we wanted to share with you what this looks like and what the changes are. So when you go to SBA.com, you're going to be able to click on apply for this economic injury disaster loan application. And you're right off the bat, you're going to come to the page that you're seeing here. Now, I went through this earlier and we've put in some basic, fake information so we can show you each of the individual pages, kind of show you the different questions that are going through. And hopefully this will help through the process itself. On the very first page, the intention of this is to try to streamline this, and we're expecting sometime in the very near future, whatever you choose here will most likely change some of the questions that'll come forward in the rest of the form, but at the moment it does not appear to do that. When you read into the bill, these questions now do make more sense to me because there are different, for like the payroll protection plan, these different things, they come into play with some of the stuff that's being broken out here. So your first set of choices, of course, it's going to be an applicant is a business with not more than 500 employees. So this will most likely be the majority of the businesses out there that are applying. This is not a sole proprietor or a subcontractor. You'll see that's going to be the next choice. But if you had like an S Corp, you have a C Corp, anything of that nature, you would be choosing this very first one right off the bat. If you have more than 500 employees, there will be other options below. So as we said before, the second one here, applicant is an individual who operates under a sole proprietorship with or without employees or as an independent contractor. So if you are that independent contractor, a 1099 type person, most likely this is the one that you would be choosing at that point. So sole proprietor, I believe this would even be like limited liabilities. If you're doing a limited liability filing as an S Corp, becomes a question. I believe that would actually be the top one. Again, as I should put the disclaimer, we are not CPA certified public accountants and we are not lawyers. So we advise that you reach out to the appropriate person to get the appropriate answers to your entity type. Applicant is a cooperative with not more than 500 employees. So cooperative be a different group of peoples that kind of combine together to create something. There are grocery shops and such that do this type of a thing. It would be something of that nature. Employee stock ownership plan. So if, again, trying to give a good example of this, we actually have a grocery store, I believe it's called Sprouts, which I think is based off of this where, I'm sorry, Winco. Winco is a great example of that, where the employees actually own stock in the business. That would be something of that nature, I believe. Applicant is a tribal small business concern. So if you're a tribal business, you would choose the appropriate one there. The next one, of course, is part of an agricultural cooperative, aquaculture enterprise, nursery, or produce cooperative that is small under the SBA size standard found with the link. This comes into play actually pretty heavily in the new CARES Act when they're talking about the sizes of the different companies, and certain companies, they refer back to the size standards. So you're going to see more of this as you're applying for different loans and such in the future. Applicant is a business with more than 500 employees. That is small under same kind of concept. And then the final one being is applicant is private nonprofit organization that is a non-governmental agency or entity that currently has an effective ruling letter from the IRS granting tax exemption under Section 501C, D, or E. So whatever your best entity is, you need to choose one of these, and then you must go through and check off all of these. Again, you can kind of read them, but it's basically saying you're not engaging in any illegal activities defined by federal guidelines. No principal of the applicant with 50% or greater ownership interest in is more than 60 days delinquent on child support obligations. Applicant is not an agricultural enterprise, which you kind of talked about before. Applicant does not present live performances. You can go through the rest of that one. Applicant does not derive more than 1/3 of gross annual revenue from legal gambling activities, or applicant is not in the business of lobbying, and applicant cannot be a state, local, or municipal government entity and cannot be a member of Congress. Yay. Once you have checked all of these off, boom, 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 you then would be able to go to continue. Okay. Now, on this screen here, I've gone through and I've filled in a whole bunch of basic fake data that's inside of here. And I'll even go back to the other one. So you'll see that at the moment, the questions really do not vary. Obviously, there are specific ones that are asterisks that you'd have to answer. So we'll focus on those, of course, of your legal name, your trade name, your DBA, of course, your EIN for the business, or an SSN for a sole proprietor. You will have to choose your organization type as we had to do before. And you can see from your choices there. Is the applicant a nonprofit organization? Yes or no? Is the applicant a franchise? Yes or no? And then here, gross revenues for the 12 months prior to the date of the disaster. And now this is interesting. It's actually putting the date of the disaster as January 31st, 2020. So you would be looking for the 12 months prior of that. So a profit and loss would provide that to you. And then it's also asking you for the cost of goods sold for that same given period. It also wishes to know about rental properties. So rental, that could be residential and or commercial, and the lost rents due to the disaster. So most likely, most businesses will not necessarily have any of that. But if you do, you would, of course, put it there. Nonprofit cost of operations for the 12 months prior. So again, these are the kinds of questions when we're seeing this nonprofit, we expect will probably get removed when they start to streamline this form. So if it's not there when you do this in the future, you probably know why. Combined annual operating expenses for the 12 months prior to the date of the disaster for all secular social services provided by the faith-based entity. This is again, some of these questions here are going to be more focused on that nonprofit aspect of it. So you'll see that these are not asterisked. So you do not have to fill these in. On the one back here, we did put it as a nonprofit. So let's see if that changes. So even though I selected nonprofit in the last one, these asterisks do not change. So just because there's not an asterisk there, you should still fill in everything you can that would be appropriate. Compensation from other sources received as a result of the disaster. This will be a very, very important one. So this will be the money amount, and then you're going to describe what those are. So if you've had any other loans, if you've received any kind of grants, if there's any programs like Intuit's program where they're helping fund small businesses, or Amazon, you would need to put those here as well. Primary business address, and cannot be a PO box. Very, very important. So they're looking for the brick and mortar address. You cannot use your UPS store or PO box. They will not accept that. Business phone number, email, of course, date business established, current ownership since. These were things were on the last form as well. So business activity. You can choose among your different business activities that are listed here. I'll kind of sit here for a moment so people can kind of see. And the way you choose this will, of course, impact the way they're looking at it. And it has to do with some of the bill itself, like eating and drinking places are covered specific ways under the CARES Act. Once you choose something, it's going to then ask you for a detailed business activity. So again, these are directly connected. So if I go finance, and I go here, I could do accounting or bail bonds. Number of employees. This is a very, very important number. The number of employees that go into this, I almost guarantee will end up coming back to be part of any part of the loans that may be forgiven, loan forgiveness. And there are certain clauses in there that have to do with the number of employees. It is possible that you could have laid somebody off at this point in time and then bring them back before June 30th, but there cannot be for any person, excuse me, I should say it more appropriately, that for every one person that has either you've diminished your headcount or there's been a reduction in pay by at least 25%, any money that you could be forgiven would be reduced or prorated by that person. So this number, it's got to be accurate. Of course, they're going to check it, but you need to be cognizant of it, and it's something to be watching into. The number, so now we're on page 2 of this. And when we went through this, it's really easy at first to just kind of like go right past this. Is your business owned by a business entity? So this is their way of asking. If you say yes, now we start seeing different information into it, right? That would be where it goes back to the idea if you have another corporation that's owning part of this corporation, or if you have to pull up the tax records for something else, as we talked about in our last video, that's what this has to do with. As you go through, you're going to fill in the different details. You're going to have choices of the different positions. Pretty standard C-suite stuff. Boom. Ownership percentage. Again, this has to do with the fact if somebody owns more than 20%, requires that they be listed on here as well. We put it as 100% at the moment just to make it a little bit easier and only have to do one person. Email, social security number, birth date, place of birth. Now, we don't actually know if the place of birth is asking for a city and a state, so I just put both in as an example. Don't worry, again, this information is actually fake, as you can obviously tell. Address-wise, it's a U.S. citizen, state, so forth. If you did U.S. citizen, no. You need to be aware that there are definitely clauses within the CARES Act that specifically talk about the place of residence being inside the United States. If you need to add an additional owner, you would click on add additional owner, would automatically populate it on, and with the presumption that it would need to equal 100%. Once you've filled all of this in, click next. And now you're going to get back to some of the questions we had again the first time of, in the past year, has the business or a listed owner been convicted of a criminal offense committed during and in connection with a riot or civil disorder or other declared disaster, or ever been engaged in the production or distribution of any product or service that has been determined to be obscene by a court of, competent jurisdiction. Wow. I think that was a little bit different, but okay. Is the applicant or any listed owner currently suspended or debarred from contracting with the federal government or receiving federal grants or loans? Yes or no? Final last one. Are you presently subject to indictment, criminal information arrangement, or other means by which formal criminal charges are brought in any jurisdiction? Have you been arrested in the past 6 months for any criminal offenses? For any criminal offense other than minor vehicle violation, so this was different. Have you ever been convicted, pled guilty, pled no contest, basically is what it's saying, been placed or on pretrial diversion, or been placed on any form or parole probation, including probation before judgment? So again, even if these are yeses, you should still fill this in, go through the process, make sure to fill it out, still apply, okay? Now we have, again, this option here if somebody is helping to assist you. So before making this video, I was on a pretty long phone call with a couple of my associates, and we were working rapidly to put something together to try to make this process easier. We've had a lot of people reach out to us and asking for us to help them fill in these forms, and we're doing our best to put together a program to simplify it to where we can actually do that for you. So be sure to stay in. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, be sure to do so. We'll be sure to update you there. You can also shoot over an email to me, and we will, of course, save that to be able to update people also. We know this is very time sensitive, and we're working around the clock to make this happen. So you'd fill in their information, fee charged or agreed upon. Now, this is an important part because you can't just have somebody that's charging you $5 million to do this. They've basically established it that if it's for a home-based loan, it's supposed to be around $500, or if it's a business-based loan, $2,500 is the accepted amount. With that, what that does not cover is if you have not completed your accounting, if you haven't filed your 2018 or 2019 taxes, well, and you need more work to be done there, that would be additional charges because it'd be additional work to get you caught up to do this type of thing. To be able to do the application for these things, you are supposed to have had at least your 2018 or 19 taxes filed. The last part it has here, and this is an area we are actively looking into. I would like to be considered for an advance of up to $10,000. Now, we've gone into the documentation of the CARES Act, and there's specific stipulation that's talking about this advance possibly being considered, like if you are not approved, that this could potentially become a grant. What we don't know is if you were to put this application in, say, I'd like to be considered for the advance, and if you were approved for this initial amount, would that limit your ability to do a SBA loan, 7A or 7B SBA loan? And we're looking into it, trying to connect to people first thing tomorrow, being Monday, March 30th. Again, this is an area I have to really, put that disclaimer out there that because we are not certified public accountants and we are not lawyers, you really need to talk to the appropriate people that are surrounding your business to make sure you've got the best advice possible. Then it's going to ask you where you want to send the funds. Now, I'm more than happy, of course, to tell everybody where to send it into our account. Hopefully made you laugh, but you'd put in your bank name, your account number, routing number, so forth to push this through. Be sure to read through the different stipulations, information that's inside of here, and then you would then click next. Now, on the next field, which I can't fill this stuff in, would take you to your summary and would then, at this point, push through and complete that part of the process. There are additional forms that we talked about the last time, which are not addressed here. Specifically, like the request for taxpayer transcripts is not here, is a big one. So we're expecting to see more changes coming to this pretty soon, but I wanted to do this update video so at least people recognize there was an additional change. We are actively on these things. I wish we had more information immediately, but we do hope this helps. I've recently finished up a presentation that is focused on the payroll protection program that they will have, and we'll be doing videos of each of the different sections, basically trying to break down each section of the primary bill to make it a little bit more digestible. So be sure to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. Thank you to all of those who have recently. We hope we continue to provide you extra value. And if you do have other questions, please feel free to reach out. My email is mfulton@parkwaymail.com. That's M as in Matthew, FULTON@parkwaymail.com. You can also call us at 805-419-9197. And as always, here's wishing everybody a very successful and healthy week.